right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about Strange World, the latest Disney adventure, which unfortunately did not do very good in the theaters, but it's out on Disney Plus now, and hopefully it'll find a new audience because honestly, I had a lot of fun with this movie. And I had a great time talking about it. Joining me is Wen Lei. It's his first time on the show. We got into a lot of great puzzle pieces. And yeah, that's coming up here in a second. Before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. We also have a Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, as well as Awesome Movie Year and from my music career, which, speaking of which, later this week I've got a special bonus episode of Piecing It Together coming out. That will be an album-length commentary of my new album, More Content, which people on the Patreon have been hearing songs from, as well as that actual commentary track for a while now. So if you want to, get stuff early, you can check out the Patreon. But we will have that special episode coming up later this week, along with another episode of Piecing It Together coming up later this week. Lots of Piecing It Together coming your way. But yeah, check out the Patreon. Again, it's produced by David Rosen, patreon.com/bydavidrosen. So let's talk about Strange World. All right, we are going to talk about Strange World, and joining me, we've got Wen Lee with us. Wen, how's it going?
I'm doing okay. Texas weather has been unpredictable lately. It's been warm one moment and then near freezing the next.
Mm-hmm.
But other than feeling like God or whomever upstairs is really playing Vegas with the climate, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's weird for Texas, but it's just as nuts here too. It's all over the place. But I guess that's a good setup for the movie we're talking about with these strange environments and everything we're going into. I feel like we're gonna be there like any day now. But before we get too far into the movie, though, it is your first time on the show. Why don't you tell people a little about you and what you do?
Okay, wow. Where to start? Once upon a time, there was a little boy. Okay,
Yeah.
not that far back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could start a little past there. Yeah.
All right. So, my name is Nguyen Lei, and I would say I'm a film critic and at times a cultural journalist as well, if should any appropriate topic arises. Well, I've been doing this for, let me see, 9 or maybe even, borderlining like 10 years already. So, yeah, time sure flies when you really look back at that. And my work, Houston Chronicle, Fangoria, Slash Film, Awards Watch, the Spool, JumpCut Online, so on and so forth. But other than that, the core of the content that you can see in what I write is just that I really love films, and if it's a film with Asian-centric elements or particularly about Vietnam, I'm I'm your person. I'm there, and I just hope that it's been informative and entertaining, or at the very least, entertaining at the same
Yeah.
time. Other than that, if I'm not writing, I would go out and try and find new places to eat, new boba tea joints to
Nice.
try out, and yeah, occasionally I do very, very amateurish cooking as well. Note that I say amateurish, not destructive, because as you can see, where I'm at, it hasn't burned down yet. So,
Well, we got a lot in there. And by the way, here in Las Vegas, there's a lot of boba tea places, like right in my neighborhood. So, if you ever make your way out here for film festivals or anything like that, there's going to be plenty for you to try. But yeah, you know what? Let's start this off because, this being, a Disney film, we should get into Disney first before we start getting into puzzle pieces on the movie Strange World specifically. Are you a big Disney fan? I mean, I think you're the things that I've seen you cover are wide and range, like all over the place. Like, so I'm not quite sure how you fall as far as animation wise. Are you a big fan of Disney films?
Well, I can tell you this much. Me being, having spent my formative years in Vietnam, where
Hmm.
at the time, I would say animation is not that local, animation is not that, you know, big of a deal yet. And when I was born, the country was just, in the period of, maybe let's open things up a little bit. And welcome material from overseas. So
Hmm.
we suddenly have a whole lot of stuff from Hollywood coming in. Hollywood action, Hollywood sci-fi, and obviously Hollywood animation. And speaking of
Yeah.
Hollywood animation, Disney has always been large. Like at that time, Disney is already big, so obviously it would really make kind of like a big imprint over in Vietnam and specifically, Vietnamese childhood, ding ding, this
Hmm.
guy included. So yes, I can tell you that I grew up with the Disney films, and to say that, am I really much like a fan, like head over heel for Disney? Not so much, because clearly if you only love one kind of thing, then you're really if you only love one tree in the whole forest, you miss out the whole woods, and the whole woods are
Sure,
beautiful.
and that's I absolutely agree with that. Like, there's so much out there, but it does feel like Disney is kind of taken over a lot of, of everything in entertainment right now,
Oh, yeah.
uh, which makes it all the weirder that this movie is not doing very well because it feels like it's got all of the elements of something that should have hit. And I'm not quite sure when I'm going to be posting this episode at the time of recording. I might actually time it for the Disney Plus release because it'll already maybe be gone from the theaters already by the time that we're finished recording here today. But it's not connecting, and I feel like there's so many angles that could be kind of attacked from. There's so many things going on here that people just aren't connecting with the movie for whatever reason.
Okay, so now I guess I will put on my journalistic hat and just, ask, what would you say would be the reason for this, as you very eloquently put it, disconnection?
Mhm. Well, I think, unfortunately, there's a large segment of the population who maybe is uncomfortable with some of the themes in this movie, and we are fine with spoilers on this show. Don't worry about spoiling anything. But our main hero's son, is gay and has a love interest who's another boy, and that is a great part of the story. And there's the fact that I feel like word of mouth has maybe gotten out to the wrong parts of families in America that are just not, okay with that. And I think that really freaking sucks. A lot of people have also said that this film has just simply not been advertised. And so I feel like we kind of have to go on both angles of that because even though I certainly saw lots of advertisement for Strange World, I'm wondering if maybe they just like only advertised this to like guys who like weird indie films and not to families who should have been going to the movie in the first place.
Yeah, I would say that's valid perspectives, solid reasonings. Although I would say that, when you say that, it promotes its certain of its themes that certain populations in America find, for whatever reason, irksome, I would maybe just, like, if I may just issue a little correction, like populations in middle America that find
Sure.
a whole lot of certain things to be pissy about. Um, for that, I can't offer any, words of volume on that, because that is something that I can't change. That is something that
Right.
I was just like, "Well, crap, gotta accept it, I guess." I don't know why you're so vocal about it, and you're so acidic in
Hmm.
the in your volume, but okay, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just not going to comment on that. Not because I don't have anything to say, but it's just that I don't want to provide more ammunition for them to be weird. That's
Yeah, I completely understand that. And like, we'll get this out of the way right away. I actually really liked this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think there's so much positive to focus on. We're gonna start getting into some puzzle pieces now, and I think that there's a lot of really fun influences here, and all of that are the reasons why this movie should have succeeded, and hopefully it will find its audience as it, comes home and is on Disney and all that kind of stuff. But let's start getting into it. What do you have for your first puzzle piece here?
right. So, before I get into my puzzle piece, I would say that yes, I do share your sentiment as well. As in, like, I really love this film. I only expected to like it, considering kind of like the weird, ineffective marketing that it has.
Hmm.
But then again, I guess we also have to factor in that the film was released during a time of big transition. Between Iger and JPEG or JPEG
Right.
or whatever the bad CEO, that one. Um, yeah, but I love it. I love the
Yeah.
film, and I would say right now, as of this moment, Strange World is in my top 25 films of 2022. But other
Nice.
than that, all right. And also, I really appreciate that you kind of like structured this kind of like in a like a puzzle format, because it's really rekindling my love for puzzles. So,
Nice. Awesome.
but okay, so. But, first piece that I have, I would say, and I apologize as well, it's not a film, but, it
That's okay.
watching Strange World, it reminds me a lot of a game that I like, and, a very particular level in a game as well. I was just wondering if you know the game, Okami?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, where
I
you
haven't played it since back when it first came out on, was it PS2, I think, but
PS2, correct, yes.
yeah.
Back when I guess, the godfather of Resident Evil horror, Shinji Mikami was still working at a Clover Studio, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly. I could be wrong, so please don't quote me on that. But if I had just happened to be right, well, consider that you lost your bet. Anyway, yeah. So Okami, the particular level that I want to mention is the one where you have to fight a reanimated suit of armor that's called
Mm.
Light, if I remember correctly. And, when you get to this is kinda like at the maybe at the very early stretches of the game where you have to control your main character, kinda like, a dog god, Amaterasu,
Mhm.
to a new level, to a place called Seian City. But you've been kind of like hyped up about this place being beautiful, being regal, and all that sort of stuff. But then when you arrive there, it's a city that got shrouded in sickness and in mist, because the aforementioned enemy, the reanimated samurai armor, has somehow shrunken itself so that it could enter the emperor's body in order to make him sick and make him exhale this sickly mist all around town. And the fact that there are two details in that level that reminds me that watching Strange World harkens me back to that. It's because, first of all, the mist is green, and not just any kind of green, but that very exact green from the electrified Brussels sprouts pando from
Sure.
the film.
Sure.
But also, in order to solve the predicament of the place, you have to also shrink yourself down so that you can enter the emperor's body in order to fight that samurai armor, just to save
Sure.
the town. So there's
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. I love it, and I actually have a video game on my list coming up a little later. But I love that, and it definitely. It definitely mirrors that whole thing of like having to go inside and then finding out, in the big, reveal later on that, oh, we're actually inside of this creature, and that's why it was sick the whole time, and that's why this is all happening. And so that's great. And I actually bought the Okami HD remake, I think on Switch, and
Right.
I haven't played it yet, but I want to play that sometime soon because that game is awesome. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
no,
love
that's a
that.
great one. I love it. I love it. I'll start off with my first piece, which actually I guess this would probably be the most obvious one, but I figure we might as well get it out of the way. Journey to the Center of the Earth, of course, the Jules
Sure.
Verne novel, the various movie incarnations of it over the years. I mean, we kind of can't get through this conversation without talking about it, so I thought I'd make it my first one. Hugely influential with going inside into this like unexplained world and full of imagination and unique creatures and vistas and design for the world itself. And we've seen this pop up in so many movies over the years. I mean, just last year we had it with Godzilla versus Kong, but it's something that even though it's been around for so long, it's continuing to inspire so much when it comes to like adventure filmmaking. And it's great when you can kind of look to that because it really inspires like the most use of uh, imagination, really, in its designs of its world and of the creatures that inhabit it, and be able to kind of just go out there with it. And so I think it's a fun one whenever it comes up as a puzzle piece.
Sure, absolutely. I would also, add in the fact that we have these vehicles or maybe just the production design overall of Avalonia. Everything seems to be very bulbous, like
Hmm.
clunky in a way, but
Sure.
airy at the same time. So it's very so yeah, it reminds me of a whole lot of how sketch artists back then would kind of like, oh, what would the future be like? Or it's the kind of like, how would you say it? Kind of like the motif of choice when you are assigned a task to, okay, you gotta sketch an a visual for this Jules Verne material, and it's always something like that. So,
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. What do you got for your next piece?
Okay, this is going to sound this is going to sound weird because although this piece is also a family film, but then the biggest difference with Strange World is just that it's R-rated in a way. It's Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, nice.
I guess, other than the fact that, Little Miss Sunshine is also one of the first R-rated films that I've ever seen, but
Mhm.
not only that, it's also one of the first, and very few R-rated films that, I I find, exhilarating to watch. I find satisfying to watch. So watching Strange World, why does it remind me of Little Miss Sunshine? It's just because that the idea that also something that the film really brings out to the forefront, and certain critics say that it's a little bit too obvious in that front. But okay, I respect their opinion, even though I differ in my expression. The film has no villains. Both films,
Mm.
really, they have no villains, and they are also, to me, they seem to be also um, revolves around this notion that we have characters that are so different in personalities, that are so different in their characteristics and ideals and their actions, but then here's a situation where they have to be in service of one another or maybe one particular entity. And by doing that, suddenly they find more about themselves.
Right.
And a cool thorough line about that is just that in finding more and in understanding more about themselves, suddenly they find that, okay, maybe we're not so different after all.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great puzzle piece, and like the idea of this wacky adventure kind of bringing the family closer together in the long run, and I like that idea of the no villains though. Like that's something that hadn't really I hadn't really thought of that, but that is a really interesting thing that those two movies do share, and it's just more about them learning to work together and get through the situation more than anything. And yeah, I think that's a good one.
And also, I guess I would say, if I may add, that is it's just the fact that, we also have, one of our principal characters on the journey is also, identify as, LGBTQ, plus,
Hmm.
or, queer, if, that's a word, fitting of use here. And, however, I would say that, between Steve Carell playing a queer person,
Hmm.
and scripted and delivering what is scripted in that way is not as authentic, or not as organic, even, just maybe just organic, not as organic as, how, Jaboukie, Young White, and, he in this film playing, Ethan, would,
Yeah.
deliver, or how the script, scripted, Ethan, and his very, again, very natural, very casual, very lived in identity. So there's that.
Yeah. I'll say to that character also, like, aside from the orientation, like, just as a character, is very kind of unique amongst Disney films. Like, I don't think there's really a character that I've seen quite like that in any of these animated movies. And, I thought he was a great character along with all the others. I mean, Yeager's funny, and, Dennis Quaid doing his whole thing. And, it's a good cast of characters, I think, and they're a lot of fun. Um, Another one that this kind of goes along with Journey to the Center of the Earth, but also bringing up video games as you did in your first piece. I was thinking of the recent Jumanji films.
Ah,
Uh, they both feel like right in line with this. A wacky, silly family adventure where everybody's got to work together, and there's all these over exaggerated dangers and animals and creatures, and the family getting split up at various different points during the adventure is kind of like exactly what happens with Jumanji. Like they all have to like kind of split up in order to solve the whole adventure, and getting split up, getting back together right at the right moment so they can all like kind of work together. And those movies are a lot of fun too. So it kind of fits right in there.
absolutely. Huh, Jumanji. The fact that, the world in Strange World, it's also, portrayed as kinda like, well, not jungle-like, but wooded areas, and kinda like a whole lot of, vegetation and, forestry. So, not
Yeah.
forestry, just forest overall.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would say good call on that. Even though
Right
even though
on.
we even though we really do have and this is not a complaint, by the way. We do have a shortage of green in,
Mm,
the world of Strange World, but, I appreciate that. So it doesn't really evoke, Jumanji's, forest/jungle imagery, but despite the fact that, we come to, realize that, oh, hey, this world is actually just the innards, just the insides of a very giant creature. At first, I thought like, "Wow, this is like someone went inside a candy store and got tripped out and got so
sure.
high that they just, like, were inspired by all the designs and all the colors." So I just
Yeah.
thought that, "Oh, hey, that's a boba tea tree. That's a whole line of, flying, Swedish, fish." So, or something like that, maybe I'm being weird, but that doesn't but I didn't say that I was watching this while I'm, high on edible or anything like that,
Yeah.
but, it's just all of a sudden like, "Oh, candies, a whole lot of candies." So,
Yeah. Should we add Willy Wonka as like a bonus puzzle piece here? Just
I
throw it in
mean,
there.
earlier I did note down that one of my pieces would be Willy Wonka, but then I was like, oh, I think I got something better, so
Okay.
I'll scratch that
Cool,
out.
cool. Well, what do you have for your next piece?
I'm feeling like this is also a piece that you have as well, but we'll just see. Osmosis Jones.
That's funny. I actually never saw that movie.
What?
I remember it very well, and I don't know how I never got around to it. Are you a fan of Osmosis Jones? I know it wasn't exactly very well received when it first came out.
Uh, I'm
It definitely
actually
crossed my mind while making my list, for
like
sure.
I understand that it's innovative, but I think overall I'm ambivalent with it because
Hmm.
well, here's the thing. I know for sure that when I first watched the film on HBO back in Quade back in Vietnam, I know that I was too young to see it,
Hmm.
really. So I really, I really didn't catch all the references. I was still learning English at that time, so was still busy
Hmm.
catching all the references, completely missing out all the lewdness of Bill Murray's and the Farrelly brothers
Sure.
gags in there. But
Yeah, yeah.
I do remember that for quite a while in life, the song in the Zit was my shower song. I can tell you that much.
Nice.
So, anyway, the thing is, but none of that is why Osmosis Jones is one of my puzzle pieces. Why is it? Because again, it's about entering the body, and
Hmm.
but obviously Osmosis Jones is a more overt and obvious way of representing that this body is sick and it's in need of a cure, as is the
Yeah,
case with Strange World, with Pando being actually like a scab or a parasite or a zit that we then decide to, oh hey, because it brings power, let's cultivate the whole thing and let's just make it, the whole creature sicker or something like that.
sure.
So yeah. So obviously Strange World is a less lewd version of Osmosis Jones, but then I don't know if it's appropriate to say this or if it's any some sort of like unexpected hot take that I'll deliver, but then now that we are talking about it, Osmosis Jones seems to be it wouldn't go out of place when you just slap National Lampoon's apostrophe S Osmosis Jones on it. And
Yeah, it would fit.
which, like for Strange World, the filmmakers didn't deny the fact that, they were really inspired by National Lampoon's Vacation. So
Mm.
yeah, there's that.
Nice, yeah. Getting some National Lampoon in there too. I mean, a lot of these animated movies are just like these like wacky family adventures, So it makes sense. Vacation's an absolute classic, so
Right.
I see that as well. So
Yeah. They treat me like the mayor and because I'm the biggest player. Oh my gosh. It's so bad. Not bad in terms of quality, but it's just
I
this
feel like I gotta
this
watch it one of these
this
days.
yeah, this is like an Adult Swim stuff while I was watching
Yeah.
while I was like just like what, 8 or 9 or something like that. But anyway,
Amazing, amazing. I'm gonna combine two movies for my next piece. I'm gonna go
okay.
with both Avatar and Black Panther. You were just talking about the Pando, which, if we're talking about Pando, which is like kind of the main I don't want to say export, like it's the main mineral that this city is able to like build all of their advanced technology out of. First of all, Pando seems like short for Pandora,
I
where
know,
we
right?
are, yeah, we're getting our unobtainium in Avatar. But it in use, it's more like vibranium in Black Panther, this mineral that powers everything in this hugely advanced world. So if you kind of combine both of these stories that have this special mineral that gives the place all of its power, you've got Pando from Strange World. So it all kind of like comes together in a way there.
Yeah. Okay, okay, I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see
absolutely.
that.
And also I will add one extra little bit of Avatar in here is once they do get, into this strange world, which as we've talked about is actually the inside of this creature, everything in there basically wants to kill and eat you. So that's kind of, I think they even say that line in Avatar that, everything here wants to eat you. And so
And
that's
have
that's
your
kind of how
eyes
this
for
works.
jujubes,
There
something
you
like
go.
that. Oh my gosh. Don't never say that film does not have and does not make any cultural footprint, you hear? So
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
oh
Beautiful.
my goodness.
What do you got for your next one?
My next puzzle piece is, well, a whole lot of people would say, well, it's Disney related. So let's preface with that. Um, so a whole lot of people say that, with the premise, the experience, and maybe even the reception of Strange World itself, people say that it reminds them a whole lot of Treasure Planet.
Right.
But that is not the Disney piece that I remember.
Okay.
Mine is actually Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
Okay. Which I think kind of goes right along with it.
Right. And I guess it's just because I see more Atlantis rather than Treasure Planet, because if I remember correctly, our main character in Treasure Planet, he's very young, right? Kind of like
Yeah.
around 14 or 15 years old or something like that. So Searcher has a whole lot of Milo Thatch in him, in his
Mhm.
mannerisms, just without the glasses, that reminds me a whole lot of, again, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Also, what our directors of Strange World, Don Hall and Qui Nguyen, did
Mhm.
really well. Kind of like with same deal with Atlantis, which I believe was from Kirk Wise and Gary Truesdale or Trousdale, or something like that. It's just that the way that they let the world open itself up, and they delayer the world just to get to the core of it. It's on top of the fact that it's really entertaining. It feels very cinematic. It feels very natural. It feels like you're actually going on an adventure with them as well.
Mhm.
Those very exact sensations that I felt going deeper, deeper, deeper into Strange World, and going through the different areas where all of them look so distinct,
Right.
and not only that, but then are so cohesive in design as well. It basically it's like this: what they do, the way that they have designed it, and the way that they let the pacing of the discovery unfold, it will get to a point where, if you're a bit intensive, if you're a bit focused, or if you're a bit on the extreme side, you can actually kind of like map out, provide a map of the whole world, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not all fantasies can do that, even though it really takes you to this place, this place, this place, and this place. All of them feel very discrete. But
Yeah.
for Atlantis, both Atlantis and Strange World, I feel like I can do that, and I will have kind of like a whole cohesive map in at the end of it all. If you get what I mean. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so impressive really that they could they could imprint that on the viewer given just how weird it all is, It
right.
shouldn't work, but it really kind of does. So yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with that. I'm gonna jump right on top with another, movie that like deals with that kind of just out of this world, bizarre and creative design and all that. And this is one that I actually just brought up recently. We did a special episode on Avatar, and I feel like it applies here as well. And that's 1973's Fantastic Planet, the
Ah,
animated French film. which it had to have been a big influence for James Cameron, especially with the big tall blue people. But you know, just letting the filmmaker's imagination go as far out there as they could possibly let it go. I mean, some of the weirdest stuff you can imagine seeing, and I really appreciate that when like you were saying, like we don't get a lot of genuine fantasy that like really has a big visual point of view that's different from anything else. And you know, Avatar, for people who love or hate it, I mean, I don't think you can really deny that James Cameron has a vision for that movie, and it's very inventive in everything that it's trying to do. I feel you could say that for a lot of the best animated movies, and Fantastic Planet, absolutely. And I feel like Strange World is incredibly detailed and imaginative in some of the visual stuff that they cook up here.
Absolutely, and they all feel ultimately cute, you know, cuddly.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though I remember watching this with my sister, and there's a part where Searcher has found a Jaeger, and basically we were kind of like given an additional tour of the place, and Searcher and Legend, the dog, the three-legged dog,
My favorite
so
character, by the
clumsy,
way.
that creature, but just adorable. So both of them got dropped into this kind of like big jello-ish creature that eventually they ride as a horse. So,
Hmm.
when we first see that creature, my older sister, she said that that looks like a cockroach. But but then afterward, it's just like, hey, this is actually pretty cute. And I was like, yeah, I do agree with that too. So it's
It looks like a cockroach, but she also wants like a toy of it, like immediately.
I mean, I think, well, considering the reception of the film, I don't think we're gonna see any plushies of the creatures anytime soon. But
Unfortunately, yeah.
I just hope that maybe some sort of December Christmas miracle will happen, and then hey, we got a whole lot of different creatures to choose from.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
because and I know that you can't see this, but here's how much I love Raya and the Last Dragon. So
There you
there you
go.
go.
Absolutely.
So
And this is the same writer as Raya, right?
correct, same co-writer, but then for this project, which he has said publicly that it's one of his dream projects that he realized. For this one, I think that it's pretty cool that he kind of like up himself, kind of like elevated himself from a co-writer role and now to a co-director role.
Yeah. Well, do you got another puzzle piece you wanted to bring up?
Yes, definitely I do.
All right.
Again, this is another piece that I feel like you will also have it, or at least it's within your field of vision. But the Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
You know what? I did not think of that one, but I can completely see where you're coming from, like immediately, and I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Oh, all right. Okay. So my turn to ask you then. Like, why did you feel like I would? It's something that I would bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that you did. Like, because it is, again, like we're talking about just big works of vision. Like, we're talking about something like Fantastic Planet. We're talking about Avatar in this conversation. Uh, Even Osmosis Jones to a degree, but yeah, but just like big works of like pure blasts of creative vision, where like everything is unlike anything that you've seen elsewhere as far as visually is concerned. And Sky Captain definitely, there's not much that looks quite like that.
Absolutely. And I guess I would say I brought Sky Captain up because of two reasons. Like, firstly, it's the presence of flight in the element of light or being aloft in Strange World.
Hmm.
And also going back to a point that I think I mentioned earlier with you when you referenced Jules Verne. Um,
Hmm.
is that everything seems like the kind of vision that a person in the 1920s or 30s would think about the future, where it's not so far off from the uh, bulk bulky and bulbous and designs that they
Yeah.
would commonly associate their technological stuff with, but now it's made very, made very feathery, made very light, and moving at unimaginable speeds. But
Mhm.
then it's just a part of their daily life. So I especially love I guess the main claim that um Callisto, surprisingly voiced by Lucy Liu, would take all of our characters down into the heart of Pando. When I first saw the thing, I was like, "Huh, this is reminding me of the Jetsons." But then when we get down to the cave, where it's very dark and there's a whole lot of brown, and then there's some lighting from the plane, from the vehicle that has to be emitted in order to see the things
Sure. Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Suddenly, I was like, "Whoosh! Oh my gosh, Sky Captain in the World of
Yeah,
Tomorrow."
absolutely. I mean, well, and another thing, like, I mean, you were kind of touching on it there, but like, I do think that with that Jules Verne, influence, you're looking at a lot of like old school ideas of what sci-fi will be, and so I think this is kind of trying to almost write a new sci-fi from that point of view of like, oh, we don't have like the last 40, 50 years of science fiction already that have done so many things.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And the second reason why I brought up Sky Captain is just because of its very pulpy
Yeah.
nature. Like it doesn't disguise this film doesn't disguise the fact that maybe it's basic, maybe it's predictable,
Mhm.
but then and this is also why I think one of the co-pieces that you have brought up earlier about Avatar. I guess why Avatar works so well is just because that its story is so simple.
Right.
Its story is literally so simplistic. But the benefit of being so is just that you kind of get the story. You kind of get trying to decipher or understand the story out of the way already, so that you can have some kind of like I would say quote unquote brain space
Mhm.
in order just to comprehend and take in the sights of the weird
Yeah.
new world that you're seeing.
Yeah.
This is something that we both can agree on. It's just that it was a world unlike any
Yeah.
other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a great one to bring up. So I'm really glad you did. You kicked it off with a video game. I'm gonna throw a video game in here as a puzzle piece here.
All right. Well,
I am going with Katamari Damacy. For people who don't know, this is a game where you're this ball thing that rolls around and just picks up everything it rolls over. And as soon as I saw these rolling bulbous creatures that roll around and suck everybody up into their, I guess inside of themselves, but they grow to include them in their, I don't even know how to put it. That game is just so freaking weird, and these creatures are so weird, and so it was something that I thought of like pretty much immediately while watching this movie. Are you a fan of that game? I'm taking it.
and I guess what I really like about our discussion or our puzzling business that are going on so far is that all the if we have made a reference to any game, it will always be from Japan or from Japanese
Yeah,
developers.
sure. That is true.
Now, again, Katamari, how did you this because feels like a very kind of like obscure nerdy reference here for me, really. So when did you first play it then? Could you tell me more about it?
Gosh, I don't know, cause yeah, it was a really weird game when that, like, made its way over here, and, I've always been, like, obviously with structuring my podcast around puzzles, I've always been a fan of, like, puzzle games and, like, more like arcade style, like, kind of just like quirky games, and
Right.
so that game just really like lands strictly in my wheelhouse. There's like another game that I play on my phone all the time where you're just a hole and you just like you drag the hole around and everything falls into it. Like I love those kind of games where you're kind of just destroying the environment and there's no actual goal like maybe score or whatever, but like just simple games like that, and you could just kind of like roll around and do whatever. And I've always been a fan of those kind of games, and I know they're not particularly the most popular, but uh, that one is really fun.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, do you have another piece?
Well, again, this might be obvious, but then it was also special for me because again, it was something that I watched very early in my life, and then it made a big impression on me. It was kind of like the defining totem or item of like this is how all exploration movies should be from now on. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
King Kong.
Oh, hell yeah! I love King Kong.
Yeah, even the 2005 version with Peter
Mm-hmm.
Jackson. Man, I remember watching it, buying tickets for it for the midnight show. I didn't get out of the theater until 1
Yeah.
a.m. So, but it was just like, I'm not sleeping. This is so cool. Can't sleep. Let's go and find something to eat
Yeah.
and something like that. But anyway, yeah. Um King Kong and Strange World, I mean, it's again, it feels very obvious, and also if you have checked out the interviews with the creators, King Kong was also one of the big influences with for the film. But I guess the thing that made me make King Kong my piece for Strange World is that again it has to do with a whole lot of the designs of the world, and the fact that at the end of the discovery, the discoverers have to contend with the purpose of their discovering, pretty
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
like, um why did I do this, or why have I done this, or is it worth exploring?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you explore? Do you explore just for egotistical reasons, just because it's another achievement that you must get to satisfy your endless wall of achievements, or do you want to leave some sort of legacy that is useful?
Yeah. No, I think absolutely. I mean, you got that the Skull Island thing, and I have a feeling like, I know there's been some news lately of Legendary Entertainment and all of that like changing ownerships, going to Sony or whatever. So who knows what's happening with the current MonsterVerse, but I do think that, the continuing adventures of King Kong are going to maybe go into the Hollow Earth some more, and so we're going to see some more stuff that is just as imaginative as what we got here. But even going back to the original King Kong, like going to this going to Skull Island and there being all these creatures and like you were just saying about like dealing with whether or not going there in the first place was the right thing to do or not. And there's a lot of connections that could be made there. So yeah, I think it's a great one, and I do love King Kong. I'm fully a King Kong guy myself. I will go with this is kind of just a this one's not really a puzzle piece in the sense of something that may have inspired this, but more of like a companion piece in a way. Um, I just
Okay.
felt like it needed to be said. I was not a big fan of Lightyear earlier this year. I felt like this would have been a much better standalone Buzz Lightyear adventure. If the character here was Buzz Lightyear and he had to learn to, work with his family and, all the stuff, all the lessons that we learn here, I thought it would have just been a much more fun version of what we could have done with that character from Toy Story. And so I feel like this could have been Lightyear. I feel like it could have been a much better one.
Sure, sure, absolutely. You know, the really sad thing about Lightyear is just that it's gorgeous. It's so
Oh god,
gorgeous
yeah, it
to look
is.
at, but it just doesn't do anything for me because I guess while watching Lightyear, all I could remember was the kind of, convoluted explanation that they have to deliver in order to, validate the existence of the idea. And it was just like, man, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's nothing worth exploring. Or if it's even something that's worth exploring, it's just going around in
Yeah.
circles. Like you put me on a ship and you put me on a strange planet, and all you're letting me doing is just flying around that little space in the figure of eight
Yeah.
kind of deal. It was so yeah, I think I do agree with you on that. The fact that, um, Lightyear should have just been more of a discrete entity than rather than trying to loop it back to memories of Andy or whatever they were trying to cook up. I can't. I have forgotten already. It's all a buzz
I
in my head
know,
right now.
right?
No pun intended. Um, but actually, now that you mention it, it was just flashing into my head right now, kind of like a fantastical dream version of what if Strange World, same idea, same directors, but with the resources and the very distinct attention to detail from Pixar
Oh
people.
yeah, right.
What would that be like?
Absolutely. I completely agree. And by the way, just as a quick tangent, quick aside before we continue, since we're talking about that, my biggest criticism of Strange World, and I mentioned this in my Letterboxd review, but like we get that introduction where it's hand drawn 2D animation and it looks so cool. And and
Right.
then we go into modern 3D Disney animation style, and it looks good, but man, would I love this movie if it was fully 2D, drawn like that. I think it would have it
Hey,
maybe would have made, like you said, it's in your top 25. It might be in my top 25 right now. Maybe even top 10 or something. That's how much I love the look of the that opening sequence. And I just wish that, like you said, with the resources and whatnot, like I wish that they maybe could have gone a little further with the look of the whole thing.
I mean, like you, I have great fondness for the flat, but not flat
Yeah.
world of 2D animation. And yeah, it's just but its application there is also now in retrospect is actually a very melancholy sequence for
Mm,
me. And because even though it looks really stunning, the 2D animation has been applied to the story, just talking about, Jaeger Clade, kind of like a truncated version of Jaeger Clade's stories and his achievements. It was about history, it was about ancient
mm,
history, recent to ancient history. So, and by using 2D animation there, it feels like, this is the kind of art form that we would use to describe history,
yeah.
never the present, never the future, always history. So 2D animation, as great as it is, and as kind of like lovingly commented upon by us right now, it feels like it's only now appropriate to address it as a relic.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And of course,
which is which is absolutely
yes,
unfortunate.
it
So,
absolutely is. Yeah. And but man, does it look good for that moment. But yeah, I only have one more puzzle piece after that. So do you have any more pieces you wanted to bring up?
I don't. My little bag ran
All
out.
right.
It's flopping in the wind. It's flopping right
There you
now.
go.
So,
Absolutely.
what do you
Yeah,
have?
my
Let's
last one.
make it a final take.
Yeah, it actually, and it goes right along to what we're talking about there with the animation. And I couldn't think of the perfect version of this. I went with Neverending Story. I was trying to think of something.
Yo, that's good.
I was trying to think of something where the whole thing has a framing device of it all being read from a book, and of course, at the very end, we see the comic book pages close, and this is like a classic adventure story, and like I was just saying, that opening being in the classic old school 2D, so like that even drives that point home even further, that this is like one of these old classic adventures that we're just reading. That's kind of like what's happening, what's unfolding here on screen. And so I mean, Neverending Story does seem like a really fun version of that. So I figured, why not go with that one.
Wow. I think I'm kinda speechless here because I know that is such a good puzzle
Uh,
piece.
that seems like a property that we'll probably see a legacy sequel for like any minute now. Probably announced at like the next Comic-Con event or something like that. But yeah, I think
Uh,
that that does it for our list here. I will read down our list of puzzle pieces, and we'll get into some closing thoughts. We talked about Okami, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Little Miss Sunshine, Jumanji, Willy Wonka, we threw in there, Osmosis Jones, Avatar, Black Panther, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Fantastic Planet, Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, Katamari Damacy, King Kong, Lightyear, and The Neverending Story. A wild list of puzzle pieces, honestly, but I guess you could say imagination is what ties them all together. Would you say that's a pretty accurate description?
yeah, I would absolutely say so, and I would maybe even throw in this very, corporate, kinda like statement as well. The more puzzle pieces we have, the more valuable the
Yeah,
puzzle.
absolutely. I like that.
Wow, that sounds very extortionistic, but
I'll take it. I think it works. I think it works. But yeah, do you have any other closing thoughts? Anything we didn't quite get to while going through the puzzle pieces here?
it's sad, really, seeing how people approach Strange World, just to kind of and from there seeing that all of certain people's fears are true about um, moviegoers, or just general appreciators of creativity in general. They have become lesser and lesser
Yeah.
curious by the hour. But otherwise, Strange World is every bit just like your usual classic Disney adventure, the kind of Disney adventure that at a certain point, I guess, in time, people were kind of like clamoring and lamenting for it. They were wondering why, hey, why aren't Disney doing these kind of stories anymore? So there we go. Strange World is
Yeah.
one, but
It's here.
look at how you're receiving it. So
Yeah, I completely agree, and I do hope that the audience maybe opens up a little more once it's on streaming. But I guess we will see what happens with that. But yeah, that does it for Strange World. Is there another movie you watched recently you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
so I don't think I've seen kind of like anything new, but I've been rewatching films that people have seem to have forgotten, quote and unquote, forgotten about. And it's this horror film that made a big splash in Taiwan, and now it's available on Netflix. It's called Incantation.
I don't think I've heard of this.
Basically, it's a found footage film, very atmospheric found footage film. I made the horrible decision of watching it at midnight, thinking it was like, "Oh, it's okay. What found footage? I'm game. I'm okay with
Yeah.
that." But man, watching it at midnight and then afterward, I was like, "So should I sleep with the lights on, or should I not sleep at
The
all?"
stills on Google
Because
alone are enough to creep you out. For sure.
yeah, it was. So it's pretty freaky. It's not without flaws. It's not without very, very obvious flaws. But what I also really like about I guess what I really love, not like, what I love about Incantation is that it offers a very, very novel, to me, a very novel kind of like perspective, kind of a novel answer on why the footage gets found.
Okay.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but just
Yeah.
uh watch it, be curious, don't be afraid of the subtitles. It's just 1 inch high. It's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
It would make for a really fun night.
Yeah, this might
I
have to
guess.
go on my year-end catch-up list because it looks creepy as hell. So, yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. Great recommendation. Then I'm looking forward to it. Wen, tell people where they can find you and your work again.
So right now, people can find me on Twitter. Yeah, I'm still on Twitter. I don't know if I'm gonna let that go, but if I really have to let it go, I'll let it go on the fly. But for now, I'm still on
Yeah,
there, and then you can find me at NLE318. I'm also on Facebook now. Facebook is not all that better than Twitter,
right.
but I can't let that go because some of my family members are on there, and it's in a sense it's the Vietnamese go-to
Mm.
kind of like social media, and the most popular or the first one to made it there. I don't know, but anyway.
I feel like it's the Jewish go-to too for all my family members. Same
Oh
difference.
my goodness. But yeah, it's just that I think it's not so far off to say that, all Asian kids have, or most Asian kids have Facebook. So mine is Nguyen.le, that's Nguyen .le.334. I'm also on Hive Social as well, which is this very cute, but even though it's really in the early working stages, but I think I'm having a great time with it so far. I'm also on it as NLE318. And yeah, other than that, the thing is, because I jump around a lot, I don't have a particular outlet that you can find me, but if I think for now, if you pop on to the Spool, either the Spool, JumpCut Online or Fangoria, I'm there. Like frequent playgrounds, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody follow Wen. I always enjoy your reviews. So and, hopefully we will get you back on the podcast again sometime soon.
no, thank you so much.
What's up, list nerds? Force 5 is a show about movie-related top 5 lists, hosted by me, Blacklist screenwriter and ex-video store cinephile Jason Kleberg. I have a new guest on each week, and the guest gets to pick the topic. Past guests have included film directors, screenwriters, actors, critics, comedians, rappers, artists, and other podcasters. Love or hate our picks, you're guaranteed to walk away thinking, what would be on my list? Search Force 5 wherever you get your pods, or head to force5podcast.com.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Strange World. Thanks to Wen Lee for joining me on that one, and thank you to all you for listening. If you're enjoying what we do here on Piecing It Together, make sure you're subscribed wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And if you're really enjoying it, maybe a 5-star rating and review would be nice. I'd really appreciate that. It, of course, gets the show seen by more people, and of course helps to let the people who give me access to seeing these movies lets them know that people are out there listening. So I do appreciate it when you drop those 5-star ratings and reviews. Of course, you could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod, join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, and check out the Patreon I told you about. Lots of stuff out there surrounding the podcast, and there will be a lot more in the new year, 2023. I got a lot of plans coming. Stay tuned, they're coming. But right now, first things first, I got a lot of episodes to post, a lot of movies to cover, and I gotta promote my new album, More Content. It comes out December 30th. Like I said at the top of the episode, I've got a special episode that is an album length commentary track of me talking over the songs, telling the stories behind the songs. That'll be hitting the Piecing It Together feed, but the album will be on streaming and everywhere else on December 30th. There is a limited edition CD copy of the album available on Bandcamp and CD Baby. So check that out. I hope you guys do decide to check it out. I have spent the whole year working on this thing, and I'm so proud of it. And I think you're going to enjoy it if you like the music I play at the end of these episodes. And speaking of that music, let's close this episode out with a piece of my music. I'm not going to go with one from More Content. I'll be playing that later this week. But I am going to go with a song called Forgotten World because that feels like a perfect fit for Strange World. And this was from a free bonus album of all like B-side cut tracks from my first album, Echoes in the Dark. This free album was called Further Into the Dark and is available for free on my Bandcamp profile where, like I said, you can buy the new album or content if you'd like, but you could also get this album for free. So check it out. Again, this is called Forgotten World. We'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.